Hello, everyone, and hello, Ted.
Hello, Greg, and hello, everyone.
So, Nate had to step out at the very last second here before we were getting ready to get this thing started, and Ted Floyd, just back from the Antarctic seas, jumped in at the last minute to give us a hand. Uh,
And
so,
folks, I want
stay.
to say that by last minute, like we're talking 90 seconds ago is when
Yeah,
Greg.
we're talking
Yeah. So
literally.
this is extremely extemporaneous. I was sort of patting myself on the back for being prepared for another meeting of mine that comes up in 59 minutes, but then I found I'll be doing this one. So, Greg, great to see you, and great to be back with everybody.
Yeah, and I'm sorry I missed that last little bit you said because I had a little echo in my ear that I had to take care of. Um, and it looks like I'm going to get another one here. All right, now I'm all set. Um, yeah, hey, welcome to What's This Bird Live, everybody. It's been 3 or 4 weeks since we've done this. The holidays kind of got in the way, and uh, yeah, here we are. So what we do is the ABA maintains a Facebook group called What's This Bird, and the premise is very simple. Uh, People can submit photographs of birds, or written descriptions, or audio files, or whatever you've got. And boy, we do get a lot of different things. And we will do our best, and the community will identify the birds, help you identify the birds. And so what we do here is we take a few of the most interesting ones, or basically whatever uh, kind of looks interesting to talk about, and we'll talk about them here and discuss the identification of those birds. But Ted, you've had an exciting last month, as I sort of intimated there. Ted was been spent a month sailing the Antarctic seas. What? How was that?
Yeah, so with our ABA colleague Katinka Doman, I was honored to be on an ABA expedition of the basically the Southern Ocean. We sort of did this huge irregular triangle taking us from the Falklands or the Malvinas, then well east to South Georgia, and then sort of back west and south to the Antarctic Peninsula, and then north across the Drake Passage, which almost lived up to its reputation. The seas were forecast to be 9 meters, which is more than 30 feet. They were only 7 meters, but it was still a pretty exciting crossing of the Drake. So everything went off wonderfully. The Cork expedition staff were great. It was really cool to partner with folks like Rock Jumper, of course, and
Yeah.
Alvaro's Adventures and Hillstar Nature and some other groups there. We were like all birders and photographers. So often these trips are very sort of multi-purpose, multi-user, and
Sure.
everybody was like into nature and science and natural history, and birds were the major focus. Although there were some pretty cool other vertebrates and even a few invertebrates and some cool plants and some amazing ice as well. So
Oh man, yeah. I South Georgia has been one of those places that I've wanted to go since I was a kid. I'm thoroughly gripped and jealous of you,
yeah.
as I imagine most people
Yeah,
are.
and by the way, Greg, exactly the same with me. I've known about South Georgia. I mean, for as long as I've known about sort of nature, and I once heard it described as the Serengeti of the South, and I think
Yeah,
maybe the Serengeti is the South Georgia of the of the North or the equatorial region. Just so many animals everywhere. It's
yeah.
overwhelming.
And you will be doing a travelogue, I believe, for
Yeah, maybe
ABA
two of
members
them.
at
Yeah,
some point coming
right.
up.
I think, yeah. So Kanika and I will be doing a travel log, and I believe we'll also be on the podcast at some point. So
Right.
folks will be able to hear a lot more about Antarctica. And I know we have an agenda for this afternoon, so maybe we should move on to that.
Oh, we
But yeah,
will. And that was, and just to make it clear, that was one of the ABA travel programs, expeditions
right.
that we do. We do trips all over the world, as well as in the ABA area. And this one was a long time in the making, with
Yeah.
a lot of things that happened, and
Well, yeah.
ships that vaporized, and
And a pandemic
companies,
that happened,
and a
right? Yes.
pandemic, and
Yeah.
companies that went out of business. But it was, by looking at your photographs and videos, man, it looked like you had a great time.
Yep.
Um,
Indeed.
yeah, I haven't had anywhere near as much fun, but it was since the last time we were here, November. And in the ABA
Mm.
area, November is just it's one of the most exciting time to bird because there are so many young birds, and there's vagrants, and there's
Mhm.
also, it's the time of spectacle, and big flocks of geese and other birds. And one of the things that happens every few years, like 3 to 5 years here in Chicago, where I am, is we get a big cold front. So the first real cold front, the kind of one that, causes a blizzard in November in North Dakota and barrels into the upper Midwest
Mhm.
and the Great Lakes. And on the backside of that comes direct west winds at like 15 to 20 miles an hour. And when we get those conditions,
Mhm.
the sandhill cranes that normally migrate in a kind of a wide swath across
Right.
northeastern Illinois get pushed to the lake.
Yep.
And the bulk of the birds go directly over Chicago. And we had that kind of a situation 2 weeks ago, and it was spectacular. In 2 days, some 30,000 cranes went directly over the Chicago metro area, and I saw in 2 days like 6,000 sitting in my backyard. And I have a little 16-second video clip
Cool.
of that I posted on Twitter, and it's got like 18,000 views already.
Oh, sweet.
So here that is, and if you haven't heard sandhill cranes flying over your house, it's volume up for the next sixteen
Sound
minutes.
on. Right on.
Sound up for the next 16 seconds here, folks. Okay, here we go. So yeah, that was pretty amazing. And I also had the second golden eagle I've ever seen
Oh.
fly over my yard. And to put that into perspective, I think there's only like 6 or 8 golden eagle records for the county.
Yep.
And
And
those are
Greg,
two from my
remind people
backyard.
how big your yard is. It's like 14
My
square feet or something.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
joking,
my
but
yard. No, my yard is literally 35 feet by 25 feet. It's a brick
so like
patio
less than a
behind my
thousand
bungalow.
feet, square feet. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it's yeah, it was quite amazing. Um, so and we're gonna quickly jump into the comments here. Boy, look at everybody saying hello. There's too many of you saying hi right now. Um, but I am gonna single out Mia McPherson because they are always
Mia.
here. Mia, rock on. But hello to everybody, and we're gonna jump right into it here because Ted has Ted has limited time with us today. So let's just jump right in. But one last little bit of business before we do, and that
Oh,
is
yes.
next week or so, we will be revealing the 2023 ABA Bird of the Year, which is um, one of our favorite things that we do around here. We have a lot of fun with it, and this year is no different. We will be in Nashville, Tennessee on December 10th and 11th. There will be, if you go to the ABA website, www.aba.org, you'll see this graphic at the top of the page. Just click on it to get the details. Um, this is not an event that you can walk up to. You have to have a
Right.
ticket in advance. So if you want to go, get your ticket now. We really have limited. I think there's only 75, 80 tickets available, something like that. And it's going to be a really fun event with music and food and drinks and all kinds of stuff. Um, so yeah, with that, let's get into the birds with Ted Floyd.
All right. Let's do it.
This comes to us from Gonzales, Texas. So what are you seeing here, Ted?
Well, it's a bird in the water. So it must be a heron or a duck or something. I'm joking.
Okay, if
By the
you're
way,
gonna if you're gonna go that route, we're never gonna make it
okay,
through all of them in
I can't
4
resist
minutes.
noting, by the way, that this bird has the same color feet as the bird of the year hiding under that white towel we saw earlier. Actually, it had orange feet. These are actually orange feathers on the feet. So although this bird is in the water, it's a hawk, and it's got a nice hooked bill there. sorry, let me not even say hawk. It's a raptor, because
Yeah.
we now know this. So yeah, we have to be careful with that word because the falcons perhaps aren't hawks anymore, but it's a raptor um, of some sort. And raptors in the water are always tricky. They adopt weird poses and engage in weird behaviors, and I really prefer to see them in flight. But we're not getting any of that from this bird. So this looks to me like it's one of the smaller accipiters, the bird hawks and the
Hmm.
Cooper's
Well,
sharp-shinned. Oh,
yeah, if you look in your field guide and look at the accipiters, you'll see that there's two that have that sort of slate gray back with rusty
yep,
underparts. Um, we can see the bird has short wings relative to the tail. You see how long the tail is sticking out the back there.
yep.
Um, and but the way the back is really, um, see my slate colored hood. I'm doing my I'm doing my impression of this bird right now.
There we go. Darth accipiter. But
Darth
so yeah,
Accipiter.
yeah. So it sounds like we've gotten this down to Cooper's hawk or sharp-shinned hawk, which
Yeah.
are the two common and very difficult accipiters. I'm not exactly sure where Gonzalez is. This is a recent image, Greg. I assume the past couple of weeks,
I
or
yeah, I think so.
yeah. So that Cooper Sharpshin territory is a tricky one. Let me go to the image that you sent to me so I can see it a bit bigger here. That's nice. Yeah. So I mean, I lean Cooper's on this because of the sort of heft of the bird, the apparent length of the tail, the extensiveness of the very clean white undertail coverts. One thing I can sort of make out here is the actual tarsus, which is not super thin like on a sharp-shinned hawk, although it's obscured by the feathering. On the bird. So I'm not actually sure of this. I'd like to see it
I'm
fly.
gonna I'm
Maybe hear it vocalized, but I'm just going
I'm
to
gonna
say it's
offer
a
a dissenting opinion here.
okay.
I think this bird shows a distinct hood versus a cap, uh,
Hmm.
which is one mark of sharp-shinned hawk. The
Yep, that's
bill,
fair.
the bill is tiny and parakeet-like,
Mm.
and the eyes are big and buggy, and
Yeah,
that's
there.
another
Yeah,
thing.
that's a good sharpshin character. But I'm still going to back to my. I'm not sure what it is. I'd like to hear it vocalize and see it fly off. So I don't
Well,
know.
there we have it. Ted is not sure. Oh my God, what did I do to my hair? With that, Ted is not certain. I would call this a sharp-shinned hawk, and I would feel comfortable with that if this bird were bathing in my backyard. I think that the big buggy eyes, the sort of startled parakeet look,
Mhm.
is really
That's
rather
cool.
distinctive. And the extent of the rust on the bottom. I mean,
Yeah, that's a good
sharpies
point. Right.
sharpies
Yeah.
tend to be more blotchy and
Yeah.
heavily
Okay.
marked.
You're nudging me in that direction, Greg. I still reserve judgment on birds like this. Hey, you mentioned the cap, which is a really cool mark. And one thing I want to say is that's quite it's sex specific though, so that it's really prominent like on adult male Cooper's hawks, and
Mm-hmm.
um, yep, so, and less so on any sharp-shinned and also on female sharp-shinned. So I don't know. I'm truly
All
undecided
right.
about
Well,
this. But
let's then
ooh,
talk
look at
about
this.
this one.
Okay, so same genus. Now, since this is in Houston, it's obviously an urban goshawk. Um,
Oh boy,
okay, okay. Now,
don't go there.
okay. Now, this is a really, really curious photo. What I'm seeing, it looks like it's got like the a tail the length of like a fork-tailed flycatcher. A bird, by the way, Greg, that I saw a few days
Well, I
ago.
think you're also seeing a shadow there.
I know I am, but it looks like it looks like the shadow goes like all the way down to below the bottom of that
I
eave there, which
know.
it's a total artifact. So this is a bird that also looks to me Cooper's like. I'm seeing that cap that you're talking about on this bird, and it's just got a very long tail, which is a good Cooper's
Mm-hmm.
character. So
Mm-hmm.
and to go to your marks from earlier, this bird does look bigger build and smaller eyed, although I can't see that too well. So this bird matches Cooper's hawk better than the first one did by virtue of the cap, the the powerful legs, the big bill, the small eyes, the very long tail. Um, the other thing too is that I mentioned urban goshawk, but so Cooper's hawks are rapidly urbanizing, like
Boy,
everywhere,
you ain't
everywhere.
kidding.
Yeah, and now that's not to say a sharp-shinned hawk couldn't be in Houston, but if you just gave me no other information than accipiter in Houston, my first guess, of course, would be an urban goshawk. I'm sorry, I'm joking, but after that would be Cooper's hawk, followed by
Let it go,
sharp-shinned hawk.
Ted. Let it go.
Right. So anyhow, I go Cooper's hawk on this one, and sort of the way that you felt strongly about the first one being, or felt fairly strongly about it being sharp-shinned. I'm pretty good with this as a Cooper's hawk.
I agree, and I agree 100%.
Well, that was
All
easy.
right. Well, that was fun.
What's next?
All right. Well, what's next is from Big Bend National Park, Texas.
Okay,
Um,
and let
so
me.
now, so this bird is we're looking at its back, judging by the
And
leaves. It
hang on,
looks
Greg.
pretty
I need to
small.
I need to find it. Oh, there we. Okay, I see. Yeah, this is a trick
It
photo, but I get it. Okay, I know.
it
Okay, cool.
it looks pretty small. It's facing to the right, but its face is completely obscured by vegetation. So really, all we can see is part of the wing panel, the back, and part of the nape and crown, and a little bit of the flank. Um, and so we can't really tell a whole lot about like even what family this bird might be in based on things like bill structure or anything like that. So
Yeah.
what are we looking
What's
for here?
it's funny, so often location is a big help. Um,
Here it
if this
isn't.
is if well, I was saying, if this is what I think it is, it's misleading actually, because this is the sort of bird I would expect in Houston, Texas, or Chicago, Illinois, or Denver,
Exactly.
Colorado. So I'm seeing here, as you said, an obscured bird, and I can imagine, Greg, these images all came into what's this bird, right?
Correct.
Right. Yeah. So I could totally see being confused by this because it's not the sort of thing I would even expect to see in Big Bend. Big Bend, I'm looking for Kalima warblers in season, not right now, and
Right.
birds like this. But yeah, this bird with those huge white coverts on the wings and the gray face and the rusty cap and a little bit of gray in the front. Is it like a big bug in its mouth? I can't quite tell. Gray, but
It
everything on
could
this
be.
adds. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
hard to
All of
tell what's going on in the
all
photo.
of this adds up to me for an adult male house sparrow.
Exactly.
And yeah, yeah,
And the thing
and
that really stands out to me and is one of the best field marks for house sparrow, only a couple of our small birds have them, are those straw colored braces on the back. Those two
oh yeah,
kind of straw colored big bold lines down the center of the back.
yeah.
Um, house sparrow in all plumages, adult plumages, has those, and they're pretty distinctive. So yeah, I agree 100%. This is a adult male house sparrow.
One kind of cool thing about this photo is that despite the obscuring here, we can also rule out Eurasian tree sparrow, occasional vagrant to places far from, well, from your neck of the woods, especially around St. Louis. We can see the face real
Absolutely,
nicely. It doesn't have that black spot that
and
to be
it
looked for. So
it doesn't have the black spot. And if you live in the land of Eurasian tree sparrow like I do here, um, the thing that really stands out about Eurasian tree sparrow is a white collar. Eurasian tree sparrow has a
yep.
white collar that's visible from behind. And when you're looking at flocks of sparrows on the ground, feeding, and they're in all different poses, facing you in different directions, you can spot Eurasian tree sparrow by the white collar. It's pretty
Sure.
prominent.
Yep. Yep. And just one other, I said this comment at the beginning, but I'll just repeat it because I think it's a valuable one. No, I think it's valuable. Is that just location can throw you off. I don't. If you said rattle off, sort of word play, word association, 25 birds you think of when you think of Big Bend National Park, Texas, like I would not say house sparrow. So I could see myself or anybody seeing a house sparrow of all things in Big Bend and thinking, what do we have here? So good
Yeah,
lesson. Good.
yeah, absolutely. All
All
right,
right,
on we go.
on we
Oh,
go. Oh
this
yes.
is one of my favorite conundrum birds at this time of year.
Yeah.
Um,
So just I
take
want to
it
say one thing
away.
that well, one thing that's cool about this bird, it's actually related to the house sparrow we just saw, is that this bird's annual plumage cycle is similar to that of the house sparrow. So house sparrows, molt into this sort of dull plumage in the fall, even though it's actually their fresh new basic plumage, and then they wear down into their breeding plumage during the winter and spring. And the this bird does exactly the same thing. It molts into a plumage that I think is surprising to a lot of us in the fall, and then by spring, it looks like the bird we all know and love. And that bird is the red-winged blackbird. This is a
Yes.
blackbird because it's mostly black. It's at a feeder. It's got a nice pointy conical bill, strong legs. It's heavily black. But why on earth in Crestwood, Kentucky, isn't this a rusty blackbird? It's got rust all over it. The
Yep.
rusty blackbird also molts into this sort of rusty plumage that then wears down. But red-winged blackbirds do that too, and you can see all those rusty feather edges. I mean, the head and the all over the body and the upper tail coverts there, and probably other parts of the bird that I can't quite make out here. So yeah, this is just it's the way fresh red-winged blackbirds look at this time of the year.
Yep.
They are exceedingly variable. Some of them can be, this is quite rusty. Some of them can be at least this rusty, if not even more so.
Yeah.
And then many are not quite this rusty. But yeah, this is just a very fresh, um, basically normal red-winged blackbird.
Yeah. And the a couple of other things here to note is the structure, as Ted mentioned, the bill shape. Now, if this were a rusty blackbird, the bill would
Oh
be
yeah,
much thinner. It wouldn't be
right.
as heavy.
Mhm.
And rusty blackbird wouldn't have that big, pale. It's kind of buffy epaulet, the lesser coverts.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I should point out that
That
you
that
can't actually see the famous red wing, or at least
that
part of it here.
gives
Yeah.
away what that bird is. Um, and the other birds, somebody suggested brewer's blackbird
Oh yeah.
or rusty blackbird or anything that looks like this wouldn't have those big epaulets.
Yeah.
Not going into tricolored blackbird and
Not in
so on,
Crestwood, Kentucky. Hey,
but
another
not in
comment.
Crestwood,
Yeah,
Kentucky.
another
Exactly.
comment worth making is that rusty blackbirds, like I don't want to say never, but almost never come to bird feeders, and especially not like up on the feeder, plucking out sunflower seeds as here. So reports of rusty blackbirds at feeders very often turn out to be red-winged blackbirds or
Absolutely.
brewer's blackbirds or something like that. So there's a good behavioral clue here as well. This bird is plucking sunflower seeds out of a feeder in Crestwood, so that's another strike against its being a rusty blackbird.
Yep. On we go. Now this,
Okay.
the I didn't see where sometimes the photos become disassociated from the post.
I
I'm
see.
not sure if that's what happened, but there was no information uh, as far as location or date. Which those of you who use "What's this bird?" please always remember to include location and date because it's important in helping figure out what the bird is. However, with this one, uh, this bird is found across the ABA area pretty much. Um, and we don't need to know where it was to tell what it is, but it is one of the most confusing songbirds in the ABA area. What do we got here?
Yeah, so I once saw this bird described as like the most common bird you've never heard of. And that's not a quip about birders. It's about all the rest of the world. That, if you're
Yeah.
doing truck deliveries in rural Illinois, from, I don't know, Chicago down to Urbana or something like that, like at this time of year, you'll see thousands of this bird along
Mm-hmm.
roadsides. So unless I'm completely wrong about this, Greg, I'm saying we're looking at a horned lark um, right here. Now, this is not a an adult. It's a
No, it's
very
not.
scaly looking bird. And this juvenile horned lark. So, Greg, I assume this image is from quite some time ago. I wouldn't expect a bird in this plumage
Yeah, like I
in
said, there was
December.
no
Okay,
information
yeah,
along with it.
yeah. So
Um, it
my guess is we're looking at this summer. This isn't a winter or late fall
well, but
image.
one thing about horned larks, and part of the reason they're so confusing, is that they have a very extended breeding period, and they're
Okay.
in the northern parts of the ABA area. They will breed while there's still snow on the ground. They'll breed in March, for
Mhm.
instance, in Illinois, and so you will see juveniles in early April at a
Oh, that
time
early. Yeah.
when you would never expect to see a juvenile bird of any kind.
Mhm.
But you will see horned larks, and they're very confusing because of
Yeah.
that as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
they
I
can
would
be.
expect.
So
No,
I
go
was gonna
ahead.
say, yeah, they're often understandably misidentified as birds that they're not really related to at all. The classic is the Sprague's pipit,
Sprake's
which
pipit,
yeah,
exactly.
can really sort of resemble this bird with a scaly plumage. Sprague's pipit has a much more sort of blank stare on the face than this bird. Also, acts and sounds are quite different, but
Yeah, and
also
it's more straw colored.
and long spurs too, with which horned larks often do associate,
Yep.
can be misidentified, especially on birds in flight, sort of bounding away. They about the same size, about the same shapes, exact same habitat. So this is often a deceiver, a bird that can be understandably misidentified as a pipit or a lark or a longsword. And of course, a sparrow. I mean, that's the other thing too. A horned lark
Sure.
very much looks like a sparrow, just walking around in the
You'll
ground.
notice the sort of spotted pattern across the crown and back.
Yeah. Hmm.
That is unique to juvenile horned lark, and it doesn't last. That plumage doesn't last very long. But if you see that, you're almost certainly looking at a juvenile horned lark. Paul Glass on Facebook points out that this is one of those cases where the photo got separated from the post. He thinks it was in Pawnee Grasslands, Colorado, which
Oh,
would,
right near
since
me.
that's
So,
your neck
yep.
of the woods.
Yep.
Um, on to the next bird.
On to the next bird. Okay, so we've got one bird circled there. And what is that green thing on it? Is that?
Yeah, that was part of what was confusing this
Uh,
person.
well, that
Um,
doesn't look like part of the bird to me. That looks like something else, either something on the bird or even an artifact on the image.
mm-hmm.
But these look like they're birds perched on a structure. I see here that we're in York County, Pennsylvania. They're quite dark and ominous looking. So my mind goes to vulture on these. In York, we have two species, the turkey and the black vulture, and we've got this one circled in yellow. I think that green thing is not part of the bird. I can't think of any.
No, the green things. We see that a fair amount on different birds here, especially ring-billed gulls. Those are patagial tags that researchers put on the
Oh, gotcha.
birds
Okay,
so that they can track their movement.
gotcha.
And I don't see any numbers on that or anything that looks like it might be a numerical character. So I'm assuming whoever tagged this bird has different colored tags.
Mm-hmm.
There
Gotcha.
was a study done in Chicago to see where the ring-billed gulls from Dime Pier uh, moved around, and so they had different colored tags placed on their wings. We found those birds like went effortlessly back and forth between Lake Erie and Lake Michigan. It's pretty cool. But yeah, to get back to the idea that the bird,
Yeah, so
now
it
that we've
looks.
figured out what the green things
Yeah,
are,
although I still want to say that that green thing is like doesn't look like it's anywhere near the patagium of that bird, unless the bird's got its wing up in a way that I don't understand. Anyhow, but it's a vulture, and the question is,
it's on
oh,
it's like on this part of the
oh,
like
sorry.
right up.
Well, anyhow, so it's a vulture, and I think it's so our choices are turkey versus black. Can't see any field marks really at all in this bird. The turkey and black vulture are in different genera. I mean, although they're both vultures, they're pretty distinct from one another. And to me, this
Mm-hmm.
bird adds up for black vulture. It's pretty long-legged, short-tailed,
Yep,
compact in body shape. Actually, that bird to our left of the bird, so behind the bird, looks more like a turkey vulture to
I
me, although I
agree.
can't quite tell that either. So nice
It looks
comparison there.
like it
But
has a long tail. The tail is longer,
mm,
obviously longer than the wings from what we can see.
yeah,
It's certainly longer. It doesn't look as round and
yep,
sort of coot like
yep, yeah,
as the bird on the left, the
yeah.
bird on the right,
Or the circled bird. Oh yeah,
the
but the
circled
bird in the
bird.
middle,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Again, looks long leg, short tailed, compact, coot like works for me. So I
yeah.
would go with
So
black
we have a
vulture.
black vulture here circled and a turkey vulture
Yep,
on the left.
yep, and something else down there to the right that I won't
Yeah,
even
it's
begin to hazard a
probably
guess
another
at. But
vulture.
yep. Okay, so I go with black vulture with a green object on it.
Yes.
Okay.
And so this is from El Monte, California, and
Oh yes. Okay.
we,
So I'm gonna. I'm. Is El Monte in the L.A. area? Just out of curiosity.
I'm not sure, but I think it is.
Let's figure out. Hang on, we'll look up something here. Let's just see where it is. Yes, it's in Los Angeles County. Okay, so that
Yeah.
further confirms my suspicion here. Yeah, this is another one of these sort of great deceiver birds. They can look an awful lot like a bobolink, which is not an expected bird in Los Angeles, or a grasshopper sparrow, also not expected. I
Mm-hmm.
believe that this is a bird that is indigenous to Africa. And here's where it gets tricky. What on earth is the name of this bird? So, Greg, I confess I have no idea what its current name is. I think it's northern red bishop, according to the
That's
AOS. So Euplectes franciscanus is the scientific name. It's been known as orange bishop. Here is by the way, Greg, do you agree that this is a bishop? Are we in the right
Oh, I
area on
do.
this?
And
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
if if you were looking at birds like this that are sort of this straw color with a big bill and pink
Mhm.
legs,
Yep.
as Ted mentioned, bobolink would be one of the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah,
Um,
grasshopper sparrow too.
Grasshopper sparrow would be another one. But look at how short the tail is,
Well, actually, I
and
can't see the tail, so I'll take your word for it.
no, you
But
should, you
here
should.
we go. I'm sorry. I need to just, yeah, okay, that it's funny, Greg. So I was basing this idea on just the top part of the bird. Oh yeah, this is a
Oh,
lot easier now. Okay, yes, thank you, Greg, and everybody. I see the tail now. I'm in a compromised position here, folks. I'm working on a very small laptop and squinting to see birds. So yes, that tail is all bishop. It's incredibly short. So thanks for pointing that
yes.
out. Yep, and
If
also and it's not spiky the way that both a bobolink and a grasshopper sparrow would.
Exactly. Yeah, this is a female northern red bishop, a bird that's been introduced in the Los Angeles area, I believe. It's
Mhm.
also found in the Houston area and in
Yeah,
South Florida, um, and
yeah, and just widely introduced worldwide. Hey, I can't
there
resist
used to
a.
be there actually used to
Was
be
it?
a population in Chicago. There
Mhm.
were a few found around Montrose and places along the lakefront, but they didn't last very long.
Yeah, if any of my Philadelphia buds are there, I recorded one on the Glen Olden Christmas bird count back in the mid 1990s. There had been a apparently some sort of like semi-deliberate release near the Philadelphia airport, and they found their way to what was then Tinicum National Wildlife Refuge. I guess it's now Heinz National Wildlife Refuge, and the population has winked out. But there was a period of at least a couple of months, if not a year or more, where you could go to Tinicum or Heinz right there on I-95 in Philadelphia and see what we now call northern red bishops. Just a well, well, I'm on a roll here. I, I have a hashtag bird names for birds comment about this birds and this supposed virtue of stability with bird names. So this bird, which is now in the genus Euplectes, has been assigned to. Well, let me ask you, Greg. Guess how many different genera, not species, but different genera this bird has been placed in over the years, and then double that number.
Oh, I'm gonna guess six.
20. This bird has been assigned to
20.
20 genera over the years, which just goes to show that this idea that Latin binomials are somehow stable is like beyond laughable. They are incredibly unstable, but this bird is currently Euplectes, and I think Franciscanus, I think, is the specific name of the bird. And the fact that El Monte is in Los Angeles County sort of seals the deal on that one.
Yeah.
Cool.
And Sarah Coffey had a question, but it looks like Nate is in the comments and answered
Oh,
it for us.
okay.
So that's good. And hey, Nate, if you wouldn't mind if you're able to monitor the YouTube comments as well, I'm trying to bounce over and do that as best I can while running the other stuff here. So yeah, we got three people. We got all
All
three
right.
of us on here right now.
All right. The gang's all
On
here.
to the next bird. And I when I
Yeah.
saw this picture, um, I had to grab it. I love it. And anyways, um, we've
Yeah.
got
Oh,
a bird. We got a bird at a bird bath, so we can kind of tell how big it is. Um, it's kind of overall gray, but look at that jaunty, rusty red cap.
yeah.
The bright white throat. A conical sparrow-like bill. The person who posted it, hi Jenny Duberstein, Stein, sorry, of ABA is in the mix here as well.
Oh,
We
cool.
got a nice little crowd here today. Um, but when, sorry to get back to this bird, it's got a conical sparrow-like bill, and the person who posted it suggested possibly rufous-capped sparrow, which
Mhm.
um,
But Rufus Crown Sparrow.
a rufous
Rufus
crown
Cap.
sparrow. Sorry.
Oh, Rufus Cap Warbler. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, so okay,
No, no,
gotcha.
no.
Yep.
Rufous crown
Yep.
sparrow, and it's
Okay.
Steen, not Stein. Sorry about
Okay.
that.
Okay.
I'm coming off a week of acute bronchitis, and the meds are still circulating here. So,
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, while you cough, Greg, there, I hope you're on the mend.
I'm
Yeah.
on the
Yeah. This.
mend, but
Yeah. So this is a sparrow. It's an incredibly colorful sparrow, and
it is.
sparrows are like just awesome birds. I think they're sometimes just dismissed as brown things, but I mean, this bird is orange and gray and white and red and green and yellow. I mean, like what color isn't on this sparrow? But as you point out, sort of structure wise and even sort of behavior wise, little bird at a feeder, like it all lines up as a sparrow. And this is one of the sparrows called towhees.
Yeah.
And it's got a greenish or sort of chartreuse tail there. So this is a green-tailed towhee, and there's really
It's a
nothing that can.
it is a green-tailed towhee because it has a green tail.
Yeah, a greenish tail,
And
because
that's
so much the bird's in a shadow, so I can see why the sort of the full glory and grandeur of the greenish upper parts aren't showing, and that could
yeah.
lead to it the idea that's another kind of sparrow. The fact that it was misidentified as a sparrow, I think, though, speaks to the actually, I mean, basically the correctness of the observer placing this bird as a sparrow as opposed to a warbler or
Right.
a nuthatch. I'm sort of going absurd there, but yeah, this adds up structure wise for sparrow. But one thing we need to address is the fact that this bird is called a towhee. So towhee, like
Do we really?
well, we do. We need to address towhee.
Okay,
So yeah,
we're gonna go there.
we're going to hear about towhee. So yeah, so towhee is just a it's just a word for sort of big, colorful sparrows. And we used to think that the towhees were all sort of the same thing. They were all in the genus Pipilo, but now we know that they're what we call polyphyletic. They're not even related to each other. So this bird actually does line up with the for me, the spotted towhee, for you, the eastern towhee. But then the like the canyon towhee, where Jenny is, and the California towhee, are actually more closely related to the rufous crowned sparrow. It's actually a
Wow.
kind of towhee. Yeah, I know. Who'd have thunk? So it's towhee's just a word, kind of like blackbird, or lark, that is just sort
Right.
of thrown at different kinds of birds,
Well,
and
or sparrow.
or or so like what? Help me out here. Where are you going with that one?
Well, I mean, the old world sparrows are
Oh,
actually true
of
sparrows,
course,
and our
right.
sparrows are not.
Thank you.
Actually, sparrows.
That's where you're going. Thank you very much. I sort of forgot. I apologize to our friends in Britain and elsewhere. Of course, yes, good point. I had ABA area blinders on when you said that. But yeah, house sparrow, by the way. So sure, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the towhee's kind of just a name given to like colorful birds, in that happen to be New World sparrows in the family Passerellidae. So
Yeah. And as they go south, they become more colorful and kind of
yeah, right.
transmogrify into
Yeah, and
bushfinches and
Yeah, and a lot of birds and that were formerly sparrows and now aren't sparrows, and vice versa, have to do with that sort of that early assumption that, well, if a bird's really colorful, it can't be a sparrow,
right.
and or if it's really drab, it must be a sparrow. So there's been a lot of reorganization of what scientific names we give to the birds as well. This bird will always be called the green-tailed towhee. It's in no danger of not, you know,
Yeah.
losing that name, or losing that name, but as to what it is, we have a pretty different take on that than we did just 20 or 25 years ago.
Yeah, that is truly amazing. I hadn't. I'm sure I saw that nomenclature change, that
Yeah.
taxonomic change, at some point, but I didn't realize that the like the Abert's towhee and the Canyon towhee were not.
Yeah. So if you whip out your ABA checklist, the one that you very handily and helpfully put on the ABA website for us now every now and then, they have look at the sequence of the birds, sort of down
Yeah.
toward the bottom there, but you'll see that rufous crowned is like it's deep within the group of birds called towhees, reflecting the
Yeah.
fact that it's actually more closely related to canyon towhee than canyon towhee is to green-tailed towhee. So who'd have
Yep.
thunk?
Now, Elise May just posted Rufus Crown Sparrow. Elise, you weren't listening. We identified this bird as a green-tailed towhee, which, if you check your guide, has a rufous cap. So we're gonna push on here,
Yep, good.
and this
Ooh.
is one of my favorite birds, and I think a lot of people share that sentiment.
Yeah,
This comes
so
to us from Orange County, California.
so now I'm sorry, I just don't know my birds of Orange County that well. I think this is a pretty good bird in Orange County, although one of our Californians will certainly correct me if that's the
Mm-hmm.
case. But yeah, so I see a lot of these birds, which sort of leaps out to me. I mean, how many birds are my brain is filling in the blanks here, but sort of oily green above and like rich rose below, like that has to be a Lewis's woodpecker. And it's got, although it's a blurry photo, I think the bird's in flight or somehow doing something. It's got a nice pointy
It's
chisel-like woodpecker bill.
according to the person who posted it, it was being chased around unrelentingly by the local acorn woodpeckers.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
that makes sense. And acorn woodpeckers and Lewis's woodpeckers are in the same genus, Melanurpes, and I can imagine that the acorn woodpeckers there were saying, "What is up with this bird? It's in our genus, but not quite." So,
I'm sure that's
yes,
exactly what they were saying.
of course, it's what they were. That's what that wake up means. That means, oh, folks, there's a
That's a
Lewis's woodpecker here. But hey, yeah, I think this is a Lewis's woodpecker, a very dark woodpecker. I mean, it looks like a gray day, and of course, it's a blurry photo of the bird in flight. But this is a glorious bird in really sort of good sunlight. As I said, that kind of weird, like a oil painting, like that glistening green above, but like a very very dark green, very oily,
right.
and then that sort of strange rosy and gray below. So this all adds up to me for
Yeah, and
a
a couple of things we can make out here in this blurry photo. We can see that the tail feathers look they're pointed, even though they're motion blurred. Um,
mm,
they are pointed, which is a trademark of woodpeckers.
mm,
The feet are very large in proportion to the bird, which is another trademark of woodpeckers.
mm,
Um, the black face with that little bit of rose, which we can see, it's hard to tell if that's an artifact or not, but it's not. The bird actually does have that rose blush in the face, and then that sort of speckly gray collar
yep.
is all of those are unique to Lewis's woodpecker,
Yep.
which is what this bird is.
Greg, while you were talking, I did look this up on eBird. So it's a rare bird in Orange County. In
Yeah,
fact, the very first photo that comes up is by Alex Tolkachev of this same. It's the same photo actually. So this looks like a stakeout. In for anybody who wants to go find this bird, it looks like it's in the Irvine Regional Park, and the most recent sighting was November 28th, and it's a very well photo documented bird here. But yeah, nice bird for Orange County. So
yeah,
cool.
absolutely.
All right.
I
And let me.
think that is it for the birds. We have just a few minutes here. Ted
Yep.
has to run.
Oh no, I've got
Um,
another 8 minutes, so we're good.
right.
So
So if you guys have any
yeah.
questions that you want to ask us in the 8 minutes we have left, or anything you want to talk about in 8 minutes, let us have it. Um, Otherwise, let me check over here and see what's going on in YouTube.
Mhm.
And pretty much everybody over there is on with what we've been saying. There's no questions there yet. Um, and all right, give us another little tale of Antarctica, Ted, without giving away the show that you're going to give us later.
Well, that's fine. As you know, Greg, I only hear about these things 2 or 3 minutes before I'm on, so there's no danger of my preparing too much for any show at all here. It was a marvelous expedition. It was very global. I mean, I think there were more folks from the ABA area, including a really nice showing from Canada on the boat than anybody else. But a great turnout from Britain and Sweden. We had a really good turnout from Sweden, South Africa, and just folks who were united in their passion for nature. I do have to share just one anecdote because I think it's really cool and it shows how birders are quite multi-dimensional. There was an organism I really, really wanted to see, and it wasn't a bird, and it wasn't even a marine mammal. And our Zodiac driver, and the Zodiacs are those little inflatable boats, that can go almost
Mm-hmm.
anywhere. Already, I think was really just taken by the intensity of bird watchers, and like, oh, there's a snow petrel, go into full power. Okay, go, okay, we're going to do it. I think it wasn't just sedate ice watching. It was, we were chasing stuff around, and we got close enough to shore that I shrieked out, vascular plant, and I really wanted to see more than like anything else this plant, Deschampsia antarctica. It's like an actual flowering plant that grows on Antarctica. And Ken Abel, who was a name probably known to folks who've been at the ABA for a long time, who's a board member with us for many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
And Ken's going great. For anybody who's wondering what's become of Ken, he's incredibly active now. And he's just like, get that boat over there. It's a vascular plant. And poor Sarah, the driver, was like, I can't believe taking people to see a vascular plant. And she's actually a professional sailor, like sailing is what she does. And she
Yeah.
maneuvered that boat, and there we're pitching and when sort of listing and practically outside the boat, and everybody's getting these awesome pictures of this vascular plant. While, by the way, snow petrels and other just incredible birds are flying around. But it was a really, really great sort of um, very well-rounded experience, incredible, just an excitement at all the marine mammals. Every single bird performed. Again, I don't want to steal all my future thunder here, but the emperor penguin show was, like not even once in a lifetime. It's like once
Yeah.
in a 500-year sort of episode. From what I gather, I have no previous experience with the bird, so it just you go down there and see emperor penguins. How easy could it be? But it's not easy. I can tell you. I can tell
Yeah.
you that. So yeah, we saw everything we were supposed to see. The mammals performed well. The birds performed brilliantly. I thought the leaders with especially Rock Jumper, Alvaro's Adventures, Hillstar Nature, Quark were all excellent. So I would heartily recommend the next iteration of this trip
Yes.
that
And
comes up.
for those of you who are want to hear the full tale from
Yeah,
Ted and Katinka, like I said, we will be having a travel log, probably at ABA Community for ABA
right.
members.
Yeah.
So we'll be announcing that at some time in the near future. So keep watch for that. From YouTube, we have a couple channels. Emily Ritter says that the green wing tags on the black vulture were put on by the Pennsylvania Game Commission.
Mhm.
So yes, those were green tags that were part of a study. And Herbie Cactus has a question.
Mhm.
How did you think this fall migration was overall? Is every spring and every fall basically more underwhelming than the last? Um, it really depends on what you're looking at. I think in terms of songbirds, yeah, we are seeing. I mean, I've been birding for 50 years or more, and the number of songbirds is definitely declining. But there's other birds, like I mentioned, sandhill cranes earlier,
Mhm.
white pelicans, bald eagles, double-crested cormorants, that are the populations are exploding, and we see a lot more of those birds, which were extremely rare 40 years ago,
Mhm.
that are now common.
Yeah.
Um,
Greg, where's our correspondent from? Do you know the
um, I don't
okay,
know.
that's fair. Yeah. I mean, one thing I'll point out, of course, is that it you don't want to extrapolate too much from your own regional experience, unless you were all over the ABA area or all over the world or something like that. I think back to it's all becoming a blur now. I guess 2 falls ago, and then the echoing into the year after, so to 2021, where we had that massive mortality event with the freak early September snowstorm that killed all the
Yeah,
migrating swallows and hummingbirds and insectivores. So that was just overwhelming to those of us in Colorado, especially New Mexico. But you wouldn't have noticed it in Illinois at all. So
no,
there's you always have to be careful about regional variation.
exactly. And one other example. Speaking of insectivorous birds, just comes to mind. When I was a kid, evening grosbeaks were an uncommon but expected migrant in
Mhm.
Chicago and in northern
Yep.
Illinois. And in the intervening years, they became just completely missing. If you saw an evening
Mhm.
grosbeak, it was a red letter day.
Yep.
During COVID, um, the authorities in Canada weren't spraying for budworm as much as they were, and the evening grosbeaks have had really good years, from what I
Yeah.
understand. And now there's evening grosbeaks showing up all over the place in the Great Lakes. And I think of that as an example of how quickly a species can bounce back if given a chance.
Sure.
And
Also,
it's really important that we keep pay really keen attention to that, because the birds will bounce back if given the opportunity.
sure. The other thing with the evening grosbeak, and this is true of so many other species too, is that there is variation on time scales that are much greater than human lives. So if you
Yes.
go back 140 years, um, there was this, I think that's right, late in 1890, maybe 130 years, there was this unheard of presence of evening grosbeaks in the east. They erupted from the west, where they pretty much were, I don't want to say entirely restricted, but they were mostly a western species at the time. But with the planting of box elder trees, actually maple, the that tree that they who's a samaras they love.
Yeah.
So the box elder. Uh, the planting of widespread planting of box elders in the northeastern U.S. and also southeastern Canada triggered a decades-long invasion of evening grosbeaks eastward, and to some extent, that bird's like almost like it's living on borrowed time in the east. I mean, I don't want to say it's not supposed to be in the east. That's not, and that's a totally value laden statement there. But it just goes to show that in addition to variation, between New Mexico and Chicago, or 2021 and 2022, we're also looking at like a continental scale variation that can play out over the course of more than 100 years. So bird
Absolutely.
populations are variable, which I think is the point you're driving at. So
Yeah, and as a kid, when I was looking for evening grosbeak in the Chicago parks, especially in April during the
mhm.
winter, but especially in March and April, ash trees and box elders is where you
Right,
would look for
those are
them.
there. Yeah, yeah, and of course
And
ash trees are going down the tube right
ash
now,
trees are gone.
unfortunately. Yeah. Oh, so
Ash trees
they're
are
going for us as well.
effectively gone.
Yeah. It's funny you should mention. Sorry, you said grosbeaks in April, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So somebody asked me just it was a historical eBird question once if I could get some old records of mine from the 1980s, like 1983, 1984, into eBird, and I wasn't thinking about evening grosbeaks at all, but I was constantly tripping the filter with evening grosbeak in April in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It was set at 0, and like I just had to put in the comment like, folks, 30 years ago or almost 40 years ago, um, expected bird at the time. So like evening
Exactly.
grosbeaks in Western Pennsylvania in April were like, oh well, there's another evening grosbeak. We were looking for house finches instead because the house finches were beginning to establish at that time. So yeah, that's that is within a human lifetime there. But yeah, if you compare Southwestern Pennsylvania evening grosbeaks in spring in the
Yeah.
mid 1980s with the early 2020s, you get a pretty different pattern.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I think we're running up on the clock for
Yeah,
you.
and I'm about to turn into a pumpkin. So Adrian and Susan and Debbie and others, if you're there, I'll be at my other meeting in just a moment. But Greg, as always, thanks for including me. I love doing these, and in
Oh,
some ways,
Ted.
the more extemporaneous, the fun. Folks, I as
Well,
always have no
thank you.
no idea
Thank
what
you
I'm.
for
Well, yeah,
jumping in last
I
minute
said,
as you did, because I mean, literally, it was 90 to 100 seconds notice that Ted jumped in here,
yep.
and
So
we're very, very grateful.
yep, always delighted to do it. Thanks for having me.
All right, folks.
Okay.
So if you just one little bit of housekeeping before we go,
Yep.
if you enjoy this program and the finest natural history podcast on the internet and all the other things we do, hit aba.org/join. You can become a full member of the ABA for $30. It's $2.50 a month. That's a heck of a deal, and we would love to have you join us. So that is it for us today. And again, Ted, thank you. And